So if you have followed me here on the channel, then you know that I'm talking a lot about how you get from where you're now and into an awakening, into awareness, into living non-duality, where you're in a place where you no longer have any hooks to all the different things that is kind of holding you back or keeping you at a distance from who you really are, and keeping you in a distance from your freedom. And also the freedom of just being, And I've talked a lot about it. If you go back and you watch the Q&A workshops in sequence, then they are made for you to have a process. So you start with the first one, and then you develop, and you can take notes, and you can watch the videos that I have in between the months. I have a Q&A workshop once a month, every first Saturday of the month. And I've made them so you can use them as a process. And we have talked about the bubble of reality. We talked about you have the ego on one side and you have the authentic on the other side. And the ego is the part of you that is very focused on I am not, I should be. So what I have right now and who I am right now, it's not quite okay, but it can be if only I just, and then we think that something better is out there. It's outside of us. The authentic is might feel the emotions and might experience the emotions, but observing them. So it's from an anthropologic point of view where you view what is happening. So if somebody is saying something to you, the ego is feeling all the emotions and identifying with what is said, and identifying with if somebody is saying something against you, that you take it personally. How dare they, or, oh, it's always me, or so there's a lot of identifying happening, and that's because the feelings are happening, and instead of just observing what is happening and what is being triggered, psychologically, you believe it to be true. Whatever you're feeling, you believe it to be true. That is when you're in the ego, in the emotions, and something is happening, you don't want that to happen, you want something else to happen. The observer, or the authentic, is where you can somebody saying something to you and you still feel all the emotions, but you don't identify with it, which means that it's not about you. Something is happening in you that need your attention and need your awareness and your curiosity and need you to create space for it. But that it's not true. It's just something you're experiencing. Just like you can hear a sound, it's not about you. You can smell a smell, it's not about you. And the same with the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that you get, that it's not about you. So you can observe its origin and finding out what is this really about? What is it that what belief am I hooked into? So this can affect me this much. And that is what you do with the authentic. What we're going to talk about on Saturday, because it's this coming Saturday that we have the Q&A workshop again, and it's at 1:00 on London time. What we're going to talk about on this Saturday is something that originates from Buddhism. It's called the 5 Hindrances, and the reason why I think it's important to talk about is that the way that I use the Dharma or the Buddhist teachings. The way that I interpret them and use them, it's from a different point of view, I think, than if you just sit and Google and hear other people talk about it. I think that the 5 hindrances are very important to become aware of when you want to catch yourself in the ego. So we're going to talk about that on Saturday, but I just want to, open the door a little bit so you know what we're going to talk about. And if you want to read into it anymore, you can just Google 5 Hindrances Buddhism and then see more about it. But the first of the 5, it's about desire, or what I call wants. So all of the, let me start by saying that the 5 hindrances, all of them, can only happen when you identify. So when you believe in a separate self, when you believe I am here, you are there, I need to self-improve, I need to be better, me, myself, and I, and you, and out, and they, and them are out there. When you believe in that separation, when you believe that to be true, and when you identify with your history, with your memories, with your gender, education, all of that. When you identify with all of that, then the 5 hindrances are active. As soon as you don't identify anymore, and when you understand the part about that there is no separate self, then you're stepping into an area where the 5 hindrances no longer have any hold. And when you understand about that there isn't a separate self, then it's much easier for you to be authentic. So the 5 hindrances only happen when you are identifying. And the first of the 5 is desire. That's it's called desire when you look it up in Pali and when you read about it in the suttas. I usually just call it wants, because desire, then we tend to think about something sexual, and it's not necessarily and only limited to that. I call it wants because it's everything that you want. So everything that you want different from what you actually have. So you have a job, you want a different job. You have a body, you want a different body. You have a home, you want a different home. Everything about consumerism is tied into the first of the 5 hindrances. It's tied into wants. That you have a pair of jeans, you don't need to buy another pair of jeans, and yet you do. That is tied into the first of the 5 hindrances, and that only happens, the need for that only happens because you're identifying, because you are locked into ego that is telling you that what you have and is not enough, or not real, or should be better. When you're in the ego, you can't find contentment in anything. So as soon as you become aware of the first of the hindrances, or when you experience the first of the hindrances about want, that you want something, then just be aware about it. You don't need to change anything. In the beginning, it's just about acknowledging, wow, this is happening. I'm sitting and eating, and I want something else or something more. I want something. I'm planning the next month because I want something else. That is tied directly into the first of the hindrances. The clue, or how can I say, the experience that you will have when you unhook from that is contentment. That you find contentment in what is, and you find an exceptional freedom when you no longer have any need for things to be different, but the way that things are completely fine. The second of the 5 hindrances is I usually call it avoidance, because it's the opposite of the wants. So you have the wants, and then you have everything you don't want. If you look it up, then you're going to see that normally the second of the 5 hindrances are translated with ill will, and it's said that is ill will and anger, and that's obvious. I mean, so there's no need to dive into that one. Obviously, when you're tied into ill will and anger, then you're in the ego. You're not present at all. You're running a story in your mind, and that is the only thing you are present and aware about. So that's so obvious that I don't want to talk about that. I rather want to talk about the avoidance where something is happening and you don't want it to happen. So the part of the ego when it's the I am not as should be, where the focus in the first one is about what I want. Now we're focusing on I am not. So whatever is that you don't want to be like that. You want reality to be different than it actually is. So it's on a much more subtle plane when we talk about it. In the way that I work with the 5 hindrances. The third one when you look it up, you're gonna see that it's Sloth and tauber. So it's usually said that it's laziness, heaviness, and you just see, couch potato, and again, it's something which is so obvious that obviously when you're sitting, scrolling or flicking on zapping with your remote or something, obviously you're very much aware that this is not skillful. You're very much aware. So it's not that part I'm focusing on, because I'm sure you have worked with that already. I translate it to inaction or unmindfulness. So it's when a situation is presenting itself, and for some reason you're not acting. You're not doing what needs to be done. There's a mess around you, and you're not sorting it out. Finding out why. Because we know that whenever there's an inaction, usually it's because we're overwhelmed. That there's something else going on in our mind that is taking up space, and that's why we experience the inaction. And that's why I think that part of the 5 hindrances is very important to talk about. The next one is the opposite. If you look it up, it's normally translated with restlessness. And again, when you're like a bumblebee in a bottle, then it's very easy to understand that, this is ego. I'm not very much aware right now. I'm very reactive. I'm not, taking the time to reflect. I usually translate it with agitation instead. That it's about those people that are very, very shallow. They're never talking about anything profound, and every time a situation is coming into an area that is deep or hurtful or in any way transformative for them, then they go like, oh well, never mind. No need to dive into that one, and just go on the surface instead. So it's the opposite of the inaction. Then you have the nervous, shallow energy that is talking all the time, and there's never anything really said. It's just like shallow and superficial and not profound at all. And the reason why we're there, it's obviously that we are afraid of what is happening underneath, what we're experiencing and observing underneath. Usually it's when we're in a position where we know that a change is needed, but we haven't got the guts, or we are too fearful, or we are whatever the ego is telling us that we are, to actually just sit and breathe and be with. So that's the fourth. And the last one, it's about doubt. And doubt is a super important aspect to work with, because as soon as you have the smallest glimpse about awakening or awareness, the first thing that happens is doubt. Is this real? It can't be this easy. It can't be this. It must be something else. It can't be what I'm experiencing. Am I doing it the right way? And when I've heard this so many times when people are meditating, I can't really meditate. My mind is full with thoughts all the time. I can't really meditate. It's not for me. I can't do that. So the constant doubt about what is happening. And those are the 5 hindrances, and we're going into it in more depth on Saturday. I want to say a practical thing. On Saturday we keep it in as it normally is, where you participate and can be live with questions and everything when you're on Patreon, and then I stream on YouTube, live stream on YouTube, and it's 1 o'clock on London time. And then I'm gonna cancel the Patreon and then have everything on YouTube instead. Thank you very much for all of your support and everything that has made it possible now for me to have everything on YouTube instead of have it spread out different places. Which means that this is going to be the last time where I have it with Patreons. From very soon on, it's going to be on Saturdays, and then be via YouTube, where you can become a member, join and be a member. And then you're going to have different benefits, because I'm overwhelmed with all the amazing questions that I'm getting. I have to say, you guys my goodness, the engagement that you show, the engagement, the intelligent and super interesting questions that you're giving me. I want to answer all of them, but I really haven't got time to answer all of it. So I need to make some kind of sorting, and I'm not very good at that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the where you can join on YouTube. I'm not really sure what you call it, membership or something. I think you call it on YouTube. And then the ones that are member, I answer those questions first, because I need some kind of sorting to figure out how to answer all the questions. I will get to all the questions at some point, but please bear with me. Anyways, that was a bit of a sidetrack. So on Saturday at 1 o'clock London time, we have the next live Q&A, and it's going to be via patrons. The patrons can ask questions that I'm going to answer and be on live and ask questions. And I'm going to stream on YouTube, so you can watch it there. I won't be able to answer the questions on YouTube because I'm not very technical. It's not my key competence, if you can say it like that. So yeah, that was it. Thank you.